nearly 50% of that into working. So if you calculate that, we spent nearly 50% of our active time, which is like, not sleeping at work or in the job or with our career. So to me personally, that's something very important and should be done very thoughtfully, because it's an integral part of me. What do I do? You can say for living, or who I am as a professional, or how do I contribute in, like, any capacity is really like a career. So it's a journey. It's a long-term thing, and it's made up of, like, several jobs. Ajay, can you please move to the next slide? So a lot of the time we use both words, like, as a synonym, but, replace them as well. But these are two different things. Job is a really short-term thing, and it is like one of the step. So we can take multiple jobs to build a career. So the bigger question here is, which direction I have to go. So career is basically like the direction or a path or a journey we choose for next 30, 40 years until we, wants to work. So this is long term and really a direction, involves several steps, efforts, and grow us into a professional. Job sometimes considered as, like, different type of activities we do, or a particular title, or a particular position, or a particular time span. Can you go to the next slide, please? And I'm not sure if you know, but Gallup is like one of the biggest consultancy in the world, especially like for workplace technology and organization and things like that. Per their report, 85% of employees in general are not engaged at work. And this is a huge number. What does that mean? Literally, nearly 85 people out of 100 are not enjoying their job, or they just don't feel like, relating to what they are doing. So quite a worrisome thing. So at least this is good. Now we are talking about it. That's a different story, how much, one can implement, but always it's a good idea to have some awareness and have some discussion around that. Can you please move to the next slide? So now coming to the basic question, how to make the right career choice. And I would take the word out right, because right again is a very subjective. Most of the time it's important to make that choice. So obviously the question will be how to make that choice. Are we capable of making that choice? What might be the best practices to make that choice? So a couple of things which play an important role to make that choice. And if you can see, it could be skill, your education, your interest, what you want to do, how you see, like, your life. So lot of things are at play. Plus, I and Sakshi were talking just some time ago, and I was asking her, how did you decide you want to do the pharmacy, right? And she very honestly answered the question about that. So, and I admit as well, in my case, when often the time we make choice because we cannot do certain things. So personally, my father was very inclined for me to pursue medicine. And I somehow was not sure if this is something I want to pursue. I pursued chemistry because I did not want to pursue medicine. So a lot of fun thing happens, and you make those choices. But of late we realize, sometimes picking up a subject is more about learning to build a learning muscle. And when we learn a subject, we not only learn the nuances of the topic, but we also learn how to learn something. And that's how I see whichever topic we do. So whether you do, pharmacy, you do, like, medicine, you can do, like, law or engineering or anything for that matter, is still we can pursue a career which is more fulfilling, which is more satisfying, and which, brings some happiness overall. Because if we are happy at work, if we are satisfied at work and job, I think our overall life becomes quite fulfilling that way. So whichever choices we make at any point of time, it's always important to keep asking those questions. So the very fundamental thing which we should think, what we want to do is very much dependent on who we are. So before even thinking about what we want, it might be useful to ask this question, who I am, or what matters to me, and what I care about. So a lot of question again. And the whole process of finding your career journey centers around asking a lot of questions. Having people around you, with them you can validate. Sorry? Yeah.
No, ma'am, go ahead.
Sure, thanks. So a lot of things you have to ask with yourself, and mind you, and a disclaimer, I don't want to make it a philosophical, but it looks like, because when we immediately start asking the question who I am, I mean, it goes into this infinite loop of who I am. But I have a context here who I am more professionally. What are the things interesting to me, where I'm like really good at, what matters to me, what type of things I enjoy, right? And have those validation with the people whose perception is like, important to you, or who you really, care or value about. So often the time there are nuances how you get into self validation, and I'll move to the next slide to talk a little bit more about, finding your sweet spot. So this is called as hedgehog diagram, which is like pretty famous, and you can apply it to like, anything. Here I have like, put the context on the career thing. So lot of things play together. And what are the things which play together? First of all, we need to ask what you are good at. This is very important. Or where I can become good. Because until we don't have certain skills, or we are not good at something, having some discussion around that might be more hypothetical. Because ultimately what matters is that what you can deliver and what value you bring onto the table. So it's important to ask that question, where I'm good at. And then the next question, which is, the extension of that, do you really like it, right? Or you really love it? So being good at something plus liking something, it can be interconnected as well. So if you really like something, you can practice and try things, you can become good at that. Or if you are good at something, then you automatically may like that. Then obviously comes the question of, is this something you can get pay for? Then the question of, the livelihood and, the money thing comes in. And that's an important question as well to ask. Those are the things mainly depends on the financial setup we are in, what type of responsibility we have, do we have any commitment. So lot of the time our desire, our passion, and our work and our commitment also need to seek a balance. And that's where the sweet spot come in, when we can find a right balance of where we are good at, what we really like, and if there is something which can get some money as well. So this is really like that sweet spot. And that's not something easy. But having said that, does not mean we should not pursue it, because it's worth pursuing it. It's about your 30 to 40 year of your work life. So literally 50% of our active life. So this is worth asking this difficult question and continue to explore this question in order to find these answers. Aja, next slide, please. So don't want to give a prescription, but couple of things which can help and which help everyone is, asking the right question. So, all right, I want to have an interesting career or a fulfilling career. Now, how to start that? First of all, we need to assess ourselves, which you can say, self-assessment or self-awareness or knowing yourself. The foremost thing required for self-assessment is self-honesty and ability to validate our findings, and having that very realistic aspect. Because sometimes I think I am someone or I am good at something, but how other perceive me is different. So there might be gap between the two things, who I think I am versus like, the other thing who I am. And wider the gap, challenging is the problem, because then I would always be wondering why something is not working out, or why I did not get something right. So there will be this gap of who I am versus like, what people perceive me. So this self-assessment is important. And it happens when we ask a series of right questions with like, self-honesty, and validate those answers with evidence. So this is really like that sweet spot. And up a timeline. What are the things I need to do? Are there any skills you need to learn, or are there any exams you need to pass, or are there any trainings you need to have in order to meet those goals? And then you will have your career action plan. Like, this job for these many years, learning these many skills, then you may think about switching another job, and then to gain further skills or to grow a professional into that area. So this is like a whole framework where I think most of you might be in between first and second. So probably at the right time to start having this conversation with yourself, like, who I want to be as a professional after a couple of years down the line, and what I need to do now to do that. Can you go ahead, please? So just one thing, often the time there is a prescriptional path, like, you really want to do, like a lot of very common careers. See, nothing is like a good career or a bad career. Anything which works for you is a good career for you, and anything which does not work might not be a good career, which might be good career for a lot of people. So that's where all these questions and discussions come into the play. You know where you have to go, right? And then you can choose different path. And based on your values, based on your skill set, based on the day-to-day job experience, you can select which one is like, your path. Whether you want to go into the core research type of job, do you want to work more mission-driven organization, do you want to work in a startup or big multinational setup, or like, the academic position, academic research position. So that totally depends on like your interest and your capability and your skills. So pretty much that's about like. So now coming back to like a little bit onto the skill part, because that's always the thing. I mean, we often the time hear, hey, build skills. So then obviously we have the question, how do we do that? Even how do I know what skills I need to build? So the best thing is to get exposure first, as we discussed earlier. Exposure is the primary step where we get to know a lot of things, or we get to see a lot of things. Then there are few things where we feel relating to, and that's where hold the curiosity and learning journey starts. So I think this is a really nice thing list to do, but I'll just pick up one thing very quickly here. Self-assessment, self-analysis and curiosity. Even these are at the, fundamentals to build some skills as well. Knowing where I'm good at, where I'm not, how I'm going to do, who are the people's questions to you. Being an ACS member, you get a lot of resources. And when you have all those questions, you can start, exploring those resources. There are a lot of magazines, and there are a lot of tools, there are a lot of events, seminars, knowledge building, skill building, everything. So skills will be built when you are making yourself a part of a professional network, or at least joining a community where you think people from different skill sets are doing different things. And this is exactly the right place to start with. Next slide, please. So at the risk of repeating myself, I think these are some basic questions where, I mean, the whole control within oneself. If we want to grow ourselves, if we want to learn some skills, we have to find out like, the groups where we are going to evolve. So picking up certain jobs, and as I shared into the last slide, when you have your list of jobs or list of, long-term career, you have to start thinking and mapping yourself. What skills I have, what skills I need to build, right? And what might be that first job or second job I'm going to take? What would require for me to be eligible for that job? Why someone should be hiring me, right? And you have to start seeing the examples around you as well. What type of things people are doing? A few people you really admire, few people, or few good job examples really inspire you. You have to see and start tracking how their history have been, how people are evolving themselves, what type of things they were doing before, what type of things they are doing now. So all these things are basically complete onus is on me. How do I observe? How do I relate? And what I want to learn into all these things. So you have to start like, finding your stories or your examples where you just see how I identify my gaps. Another thing which is always very important, you can see that risk, you can say that, out of comfort zone, or you can say that new, but that is the only common thing at every stage we move into any, new space. So being outside of comfort zone is the only place where we can have a lot of interesting things. Most of the time, all the learning happens over there. So these are a couple of things which you can consider, you can explore, and you can see what worked for you. And there is like no prescription, but these are a couple of things which we felt are highly useful people like, across different disciplines or different background. Can you please move ahead? So if I summarize everything in a nutshell, I think the journey starts with you, and it's more like a very systematic process, a framework where you can start assessing with yourself what matters to me, what I really care about, and then you have to make your own goals, different example, and different paths you want to explore. Then you have to do the sufficient preparation, you have to see pros and cons, and then have to do, that risk assessment, what I can afford, what I cannot afford, what will happen if I do that, and not worrying too much, because higher the risk, higher the gain. So it depends on like our risk appetite. And obviously I think training and learning is an important part to make yourself ready for that, and then go into the implementation mode. So this is quite a rewarding experience. If I share my story, often the time people ask me, you were like a full-fledged researcher, how did you being here, like, sitting on the other side of table? So I end up doing things pretty much into the flow, my bachelor's, my master's, my PhD, and until PhD, everything was fine. After my PhD, I started having this realization somewhere, probably research is not my cup of tea, but still it was in a very deep layer in my mind. And I did not have courage to ask all those questions because it would have been like, really very uncomfortable. After spending nearly 8 to 10 years into the field, now you are questioning yourself and saying, is that something I really want to do? And the things happened when I was doing my postdoc. And as Sakshi mentioned clearly, when we get a lot of time with ourselves, we tend to ask all those questions. We tend to reflect a lot. So I reflected a lot in my postdoc when I was in US. And then I clearly figured out, I don't want to work in lab. I don't enjoy bench research. And that was very clear cut to me. So at least I totally ruled out the possibility of being an active researcher. And that would have been the most obvious career for me, being an active researcher, because that's what I trained myself. And now I want to switch from something where I trained myself for these many years. So the obvious question was why someone will take me, because I don't have anything on paper which proves I can do other things. So all my degree, all my CV and everything is about like the active research. Then I started exploring where, other than the active research, which are the other careers where PhDs are eligible. And then I found there are like, a lot of consultancies and different companies where you can, do a little bit more problem solving, business thinking, business analysis and development. And that was also the time research trains us in like, so many amazing soft skills, which typically we tend to ignore. So in research, we just not only achieve or find some or solve some problem, but we learn time management, project management, team working, problem solving, creativity, innovation, flexibility, adaptability. Anything you can list, we do all these things. It's just we just don't pay conscious attention on these soft skills part, and these anyway become the most important thing when we enter into the workforce, because these are the things which we are at the play day-to-day level. And these are the area where we have to be a little bit more active in terms of growing further, or at least build those awareness. So with that, I'll stop here and I'll try to take questions in the Q&A session and invite Ajay to go through a little bit on what we have at ACS, which can help early career researchers to build and grow their career. So over to you, Ajay.
Thank you, Diksha. So, Diksha, would you like to have questions or should I continue with this flow?
I think you can quickly run through that and then I can pick the questions. Meanwhile, we can have like a lot
Okay,
more
Diksha.
questions.
So, thank you. So, Diksha, career without having an assessment values and job. So, that is most important thing. I hope that the audience have ACS. I'll quickly run them through. And ACS has different kind of resources that helps people to grow their future. And we have differentiated these all resources in 3 pointers, and they are discover, advance, and connect. So the resources which are categorized in the discover section, that will help the audience to have understand the inherent potential through these resources. And these resources are, for example, in Chemistry Student magazine, which has different kind of tips and advices on understanding how to utilize their time while they are graduating in their colleges, kind of career plan, interact with the students, interact with the top experts who are in their field. So different kind of student activities that are being planned in the particular community. So these are all those information that are gathered here, and it will definitely help the audience when they go and take a look into it. Then we have a graduate and postdoctoral chemist digital magazine that focuses on overall development of a career plan. As we can see here, we can find information around finding career advice, wellness, career paths, pathways, and then fellowship and a different kind of information around that. When we come to the other section, that is advancing your career with the help of different ACS resources, then we have different tools and certificate courses. In that, ACS Career Navigator program is one of the most important that one can find. It helps you in understanding how to write a resume, build the interview skills, assessments, and have personalized career consultation with the people who are the experts in these fields. Then there are different leadership courses and workshops that help you in understanding and connecting with the people whom which in your areas that have specific understanding. Then we have College to Career magazine, where more than 100 top professionals have their experience, top professional journey, and how they ended up doing that kind of particular job. Then we have ACS Career newsletter, which provides a lot of information around ACS career services, different science based career opportunities that are available. Then we have ACS Chem IDP, as Diksha mentioned, that building your skill is one of the important aspects, and that building is only based upon understanding the values that you have, that you like. So it helps you in understanding who you are, what are your values, and then dissecting your values and what have the right match. So it helps you in assessing the different modules, your goals, and finding partial in-person and virtual event. So the abstract submissions are open, and the last date is 15th April. So grab the opportunity and be a part of this, one of the largest networking platform that ACS provides. Then we have this CAS SciFinder Future Leaders, which recognizes the top graduate students and postdoctoral researchers in chemistry. This is one of the unique program which connects you to the top leaders in science and the scientific fields that are related to economy, media, science communication, and database management, and all those kinds of things. Then in India, ACS India has been very much active in organizing webinars, workshops, and help the early career researchers in building their skills. We have done a lot of webinars and workshops on different range of subjects like manuscript writing to alternative careers, then management of your life, early career researchers, life of early career researchers. Then we have done DST and ACS workshop in collaboration with the Government of India, and we have here also covered a range of topics from manuscript writing to ethics and plagiarism, then ideas and innovation. So all of them have been be a part of this by joining us in different of these initiatives by visiting our ACS in India webpage. We have also started the ACS virtual classroom specifically to talk about the different topics of career, and we have here top experts and career consultants who talk about the different aspects of different aspects and different challenges faced by the students and the people when they are opting for career choices. So we'll be hosting 3 career virtual classrooms in May, June, and July. So stay updated, stay tuned with ACS in India webpage and register for these sessions. If you want to stay connected with us and be a part of the ACS community, join us with these different ACS media handles and stay connected with us. Now, before wrapping up, I'll again move to Diksha. All of us apply for jobs, look for jobs, but again, we need to understand what are the best practices we need to take into consideration. So now, as Diksha has been involved in a lot of exchange of conversation with a lot of candidates, so she'll be definitely one of the able personalities to share some of her views on that. Diksha, please.
Thank you, Ajay. So we kept this section purposefully and give you like a little bit, nowhere it's a prescription, but we are sharing our hands-on experience. Even as an applicant, when I was looking for the job and when we received like, so many applications. So I think first thing first, whenever we are looking for the jobs, as I told earlier, we need to figure out what are my skill sets, right? And what I'm really looking for. Read the job description thoroughly several times and see if you are able to relate with the job description or not. Is this something in the job that resonates with you? So underline the things over there which you really think you connect with, and you have skills for that. So it's very important. And then make CVs error free. You will be surprised. A huge number of emails we receive have a lot of typographical error, grammatical error, punctuational error. Even people write like, dear sir / ma'am, despite they know who they are writing, or like, just dear sir. We need to have all these balance. There might be ma'am as well, or it's always better to, address by, dear recruitment team or HR team, if we are not sure, who we are writing to. So these type of small things are very important, because this gives a perception about the candidate to recruiter, what type of background and what type of awareness they come from. Cultural awareness is key. So whenever you are writing to anyone, just be aware of all these things. Is there any particular person they are, asking to write to? And if you don't know, just write like, a generic thing, which is not, that might gender biased or, anything like that. Plus, avoid any mistakes in typing or grammatical error, sentence formation. Customize your CV and cover letter. Just make those CVs specific to those application, because what is happening these days, a lot of company use artificial intelligence to shortlist the CV. If you don't, if your CV does not resonate with the job description in some keywords, it would never be shortlisted. So spend some time in preparing your CV and cover letter to make sure you get shortlisted. Plus, be honest. Provide as much as factual and accurate information in your CV, because your CV is basically what is going to be discussed throughout the interview process. And it's very easy for recruiter to find any discrepancy and like, any gap. So be honest upfront, provide accurate information, provide right information in the most grammatically correct fashion. When if you are shortlisted, get an interview call, please prepare well. At least read job description again when you are appearing for interview, because often the time I speak with candidate and the first question I have, okay, so tell me, what do you know about the job description? And they feel like blank. Then I was like, really? If on the first place you don't remember the job description, or if you don't know which job you applied, how would I believe like, you are the right person for the job? Right? So these are very small things, but very important thing. And for me, so far it was obvious, but trust me, it's not obvious. A lot of people just don't read the job description. They don't prepare well. They don't do enough research about the company, their activities, what type of things company is involved. So these are some best practices, some very common, basic, obvious things, but quite important. So appear as one of the sincere candidates. Often the time, the organizations are not looking for candidates for very high Q or like, with very high percentage or marks. they pay a huge attention on behaviors, on like, as a person you appear to. So sincere, well prepared, and honest, being honest, I think quite turning on points. So these are few things I just thought to share from some of our interview experiences. And now I'll stop. And if you have any question, happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Diksha and Dr. Ajay. It was really a great talk and definitely insightful. So I would like to invite Ayush, who would read some questions which we had asked in the Google form for registration. Any specific questions for the speakers also. So Ayush.
Hello.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes, actually. Ma'am,
Please
there
go
are
ahead,
some specific.
Ayush. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what are the best careers to choose being in the field of pharmacy?
Okay, let me try to answer this, because this was literally we were talking about. See, any career which is best for me may not be best for you. And this is exactly we are talking about. So there comes a lot of customization. When I say customization, being a so it actually depends on whether you are searching your job after B Pharm or M Pharm, or like, your research. Also, there are few standard trivial career, like, you can just think about after B Pharm going to like an industry and be more like, bench formulation scientist. Plus after M Pharm, you can go, a little bit higher up into like, research the doing up. So there are all sort of careers available for pharmacy students, which are available for any other profession. So I would not say people who are doing pharmacy should have this caveat in their brain. There are very specific type of careers for pharmacy student, because what I'm doing right now has no meaning of like my subject area or like my core expertise of like chemistry. If even I was a biologist, I could have been doing the same thing. If I was a physicist, I even could have been doing the same thing today. So what I want to say, careers after pharmacy will depend exactly on the same exercise. A, try to understand what are the things you don't enjoy at all. Are you someone who don't like doing research? Then the careers would be very different. Are you someone who likes like, public speaking? Are you someone who likes communicating science? Are you someone enjoying finance or marketing, like, or working onto the bench or working in a startup? So careers for pharmacy students are same careers as like for a chemistry student or a physics student, or I would say for an engineer for that matter, except, those pharmaceutical type of core things. So there is no prescriptional answer, but I would just want to encourage people to just think through a little bit and utilize, those tools. And unfortunately, I cannot answer this question, what is the best career for a pharmacy one? Because to me personally, anything best for me may not be best for you.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, this is my personal.
Okay,
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
And I think if we want to really understand what we like and what we do not like, we should try to explore more as much as we can in the undergraduate and test our skills.
So try to get, those small exposures and internships or training or some courses. I mean, always it's a good idea to learn about the skills. And the first thing is to start with where I'm good at. This is the fundamental question everyone should ask before we are getting to the job hunt. What I'm good at. Am I like really good at doing experimentation? Am I really good analyzing results? Am I really good clearing the exam? Am I really good solving the problem? Am I really good at creating ideas? So I just have to first, have top 3 of my skills where I'm really good at. And then, start building narrative around that. Which are the jobs where these top 3 skills are required? Or, build a list of skills around you, and also simultaneously build a list which I don't like or I'm not good at. Because sometimes what we think we are good at, we actually might not be, because that's again our criteria and our assessment of judging ourselves, which might not be true as well. Okay, I'll stop here. And I think Saurav was asking something.
Yeah, Ayush.
Yes, ma'am.
Ayush,
Ma'am,
sorry.
actually, yeah.
Go on.
Ma'am, actually, this is my question. Ma'am, how to discover our true calling? Is every true calling a possible career? Like, for example, if I like sketching, will that be a reliable career? Sometimes when I see a YouTuber, I want to be a YouTuber. So like mindset change every time. So how to decide?
See, something which I have learned, there is always a difference between a passion and a hobby and making that hobby into a profession, right? There is a difference between that. I may be enjoying something, but when I started doing that thing over and over, like every single day, I may not like it, right? That's one part. Second part is that in our current given setup, how much chances that hobby to convert into a profession? That is also the assessment we have to see. Third thing is that what is my risk appetite? There is like no harm in assessing trying being a YouTuber or trying becoming a sketcher. So for example, I give myself 2 years, right? Or 3 years, and I'll try to be a sketcher and see if, this is my career path. See, for anything you decide, you need to have a plan. If I want to be a sketcher, what it looks like to become a professional sketcher. Do I have all those steps ready with me? Can I pursue all those steps? So we have to fix a timeline. I cannot put up probably an infinite timeline and say, I'll be just a sketcher in my life. I don't know whenever. Even we can do that. But for that, we need to understand what might be the consequences. I may not have sufficient money sometimes, right? Because I don't know if my sketching will make money out of that or not. And what I can do, I can get into like a full-fledged job. I can still pursue my sketching simultaneously, keep exploring the option, right? If there are any avenues. So people try out different models, and there are different ways to mitigate the risk as well. And that again is proportional of what is the intensity in you to trying out something and how good you are at that level. Does that answer your question, Ayush?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Ma'am, as you said about sufficient money in a career, ma'am, what is the importance of money factor in any career? Like till what levels?
Actually, it is a very personal question. And my philosophy is money is important for me, but it's not everything for me. So I want to have a career because I can tell me, right? Because everyone has a different lifestyle, different callings they have. So if I say, hey, you know what, money is not important, that's very unfair thing to say. Or if I say, you know what, money is everything, that is also unfair to say. So that's a very individual calling. That's where we talked about the question of value. What is your value, right? So my value is that I need to make sufficient money which helps me to run my life, but at the same time I need to do something which helps out people, which adds some value and which has some meaning. So I could probably not be doing something very trivial or which I don't know how it impacts the people, and though I'm getting like a lot of money. So that's my calling. And there are like a lot of people who are investment banker. Obviously there is also a huge impact, how the share market and things fall, but there might not be a direct thing that investment banker is impacting directly someone's life, right? So for few people that might be a great career, but a lot of people that might be a very boring career, right? For few people teaching might be a passion, for a lot of people teaching might be boring. So that totally depends on what drives me, what's my passion and what's my calling. And money definitely is important, but for me personally it's not everything. This is my philosophy. So this is how I guide myself in my jobs. And each of us may have a very different narrative for that.
Thank you, ma'am. Sakshi, I'm done with the questions. Like if you have.
Okay, so we have another question from Ruchita Savant. She asks, what are the skills need to be gained as an undergraduate pharmacy student?
Sure, I think this is a really good question. So if I say a few common skills which are important and employable across any career are actually 3-4 skills. A, time management. Knowing how we are utilizing our time and setting up a timeline and then doing things in that given time is an important skill, because often the time projects are timeline driven. They need to be delivered at a particular timeline. So that habit or that attitude or that particular skill is very important. Project management. Project management is also very important skill. Like, how we start something, what is the action path, how we are completing it, how we are wrapping it up. That is another skill we learn, and that we do it very well when we are preparing for exam, covering our syllabus in a short time, delivering performance in exam, and then having a result. Critical thinking is another skill, right? Creativity is another skill. Flexibility, adaptability. So these are all very useful skills which are important across any job. Obviously, there might be some variation when someone is going into a quality check job, right? So their accuracy become very important, right? You cannot just make any error. So if we are into those type of jobs, if we are into more creative pursuit type of job, then they're, spontaneous thinking, right? Or spontaneity, innovation, or, thinking out of the box can be some other skills which we can build on. So there is a fine line between attitudes and skills, but these are some very common theme and common skills for everyone, whether in undergrad or postgrad or like in PhD, to build around, because these makes the fundamental and the core of any job. So start paying attention onto that. Sometimes we just don't know. So even getting, those validations of, where I'm good at, what is my soft skills, and what I need to learn more, even that could be like a good idea. Like problem solving is like really good skills to have. And analytical thinking, another good skill to have. Emotional intelligence is another thing to build on.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am.
Diksha, it would be also good to assess.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Diksha, just adding on to it's good to assess these skills, what we are like learning by the time, because if we are not assessing ourselves, we are in the mindset that okay, we are doing this, but what is coming out from that skill assessment is a part of that. So that we need to understand. So we need to go through those resources that are available on whichever platform you find it, and do an assessment to understand where you are. So that is also one thing that we should do.
There is a question by Chirag Gala, and he's asking any special skills needed in field of research. Oh, hang on, I just go up. Like what to read and search any published paper. Thank you, Chirag. This is the basic thing to start with. Let me share how the ideas are generated. We build some knowledge base in our brain, right? By reading some information, by seeing things. So whatever we intake in our mind, so this is like the food, and then we built everything onto that. So when we are thinking about doing solid research, it's paramount to have credible and authentic information firsthand. Make sure you are reading papers from the most reliable and authentic and credible research groups in the world. This is the first thing, because then you start building like, thinking in a thought. So avoid any sort of predatory, fake, and a low quality peer review work. Absolutely, this is a critical skill when you are building your research on. Articulation and communication is also very important in research, right? We do our research in lab. So we need to have very logical, rational thought process for research. We need to have, and typically the people who are very good at research have a very logical way of thinking as well, because research is all about asking right questions. So you need to have that ability to ask right questions, then only you will be seeking answers to that. So these are, some core skills. But in order to be a successful researcher, there is this part, publishing really good paper. So for publishing good paper, you really need to do good science. That means you need to ask solid questions. And then you need to have that skill to articulate your findings in more comprehensible manner. People need to understand what you are writing, right? It need to be interesting. It need to be a good story. The language need to be right. It need to be a good articulation. So writing a paper is a skill, and there are huge resources available at ACS. We organize a lot of workshops. There are a lot of editorial and even author lab, reviewer lab. These are the dedicated resources for writing research paper. So I will stop onto that question there. And Ajay, please feel free to pick up. Do you want to add anything further onto this research question?
No, Diksha, you have mentioned all about our resources like ACS Reviewer Lab or ACS Authoring Services. Even on YouTube, we have ACS Author University, where people can go on YouTube and type ACS Author University. So the big shots in our field, like the editor-in-chief or the high-profile scientists, they share their experiences, how to write what are the skills that are needed to write an article. So those things are pretty much available online, and they are free. So that's what. Thank you.
Someone is asking what skills and academic achievements are required to pursue PG education abroad in the field of research, because the skills and experience are counted different in India versus abroad. See, there is an interesting debate. I necessarily don't see pursuing higher education in India is better or outside. It depends on which institute and which research group you are working with. Just going abroad does not mean someone is doing like really good research, right? So there are all type of researchers in India and all type of researchers outside. Going outside should have a clear motto. Why I'm pursuing this education from abroad? A, is it not available in the country? B, is it like the branding is better? C, am I able to have like, manage the financial liability onto that? So we need to see education in abroad from a different perspective. Also, we need to see what are the job prospects. So for example, if I pursue masters in US or UK, right? What are the job prospects after that? What are the expenses? Which are the different universities? How are those university ranked? Are there any Indian institution ranked like into the global ranking? So in the last, it's important which college and university you have degree from. And if it is about research, sometimes it also depends on which research group you have pursued your research on. Because at research level, university has less importance. That particular research group has more importance because you directly work with that person and in that group. So what is the research capability of that particular research group is important. So this is more about PhD or more about postdoc. But if you're talking about masters, I think these are more the institutional ranking which are important and their branding for the different courses. What are various career options in pharmacy? I have already answered this question. The pharmacy people have all the career option like I had or Ajay had or like anyone had. It's just about we have to see them differently. So we have to think, do we want to pursue research? Do we want to go in academia? Do I want to go in industry? Do I want to go in startup, finance, consulting, career communication, patenting? Anything under the sun is possible for pharmacy versus like anyone else. Is doing a law degree after BPharm is good option? Is it? See, I am just seeing all these questions based on like, this social stereotype of good option, bad option. Trust me, no option is bad option. And any option where you are not good at is not good option for you. So please see where you are good at. Please see what you really like and then try to figure out your space over there. There is literally nothing is good or bad. It's just a lot of people became successful in that area does not mean they're happy over there. So success is a story where we have a fulfilling experience, plus we have learning, plus we are also making decent money. So, we take care of our social responsibilities, family responsibilities, plus we are growing as a professional, plus we are also happy. So successful career and a fulfilling career has a lot of dimension in it. And good and bad is a very subjective. So what is good for me might not be good for you. So I cannot say publishing is a good career. It depends what's your interest.
Yeah.
So law degree is good for anyone who is like really good at law or really enjoy like, that type of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, so the next question we have is, what are the things that we should look for in the companies or employers offering us jobs?
Sure. I think this is a really good question. So obviously one thing we need to see is like the job description, right? Then we have to look at employer. When I say employer, you need to get some feedback from the people and also see from the web page, what is their vision? What is their mission? How do they drive their business? How do they generate revenue? How transparent they are? Another part for an employee to look for, what are the HR practices? What is the work-life balance? How do they treat their employees? So all these things are very important, and these are all the questions you can ask even in the interview process. What is the employee development plan? What are the career growth option? How do they build learning and development of their employees? So these are all very important question when we think about choosing an organization to work for. And this is where again the value things come in. Probably I cannot work for an organization like who don't care about their employees. Because for me, this is an important part because I care for my organization. So I have this expectation they should also care. And for example, at ACS, safety is one of our core value, right? And that has meaning this is a COVID time, and all of us will not be asked to go to office unless it's fully safe to go back. So we all are trying to adapt ways to work onto, and this aligns very well with my personal value, where I really care like for people, and my organization also care like for people. So this is about aligning with the values, right? So other than the job description, we have to see what are the organizational value, what type of work environment they have, how they grow and develop their employees.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
The next question is from Manas. He asks, how to search for a good research group that you mentioned earlier in your answer?
See, to research for good group, you need to understand, first of all, identify certain research themes, right? Once you identify those research themes you want to work on, then you need to, look for which are the best people into that area working. Now the question will be, which are the best people? So look for journals. There are some high quality journals. So for example, you can take help of your professor, and for example, you are working in the area of medicinal chemistry, right? You would want to know which are the top journals in the medicinal chemistry. One of those is like a ACS, Journal of Medicinal Chemistry, or Journal of Medicinal Chemistry Letters. See who are the people publishing into those journals. Then you will get a flavor who are the people doing that type of research. Then you will start following their work more, right? Then you will see how their journey has been. Then you can go to their lab research page. You see how their group is, how much diversity, what type of problems they are picking up. And then you prepare sort of like a proposal and say, this is what the problem I'm interested in. And I want to join your research group because I want to work onto this problem. Or if you already have any such problem into that area, that might also be exciting. So always think, if someone who is so accomplished and smart, why they would hire you as a researcher? Unless and until you are like really passionate about into that area, and that requires solid research and a lot of background search and a lot of scanning things around.
Thank you, ma'am. That was actually one of the questions that I too had. So thank you for answering. Another question we have is, are there any summer research internships for B.Pharm students?
See, there is never a placeholder or a portal which will come and say these are the summer research option. You have to find, you have to explore, and this is where exactly your professional network comes into the role. When you say summer research internship, the obvious question you should have, where I would do it, right? Who would provide me? How to get the answer? So anywhere people are doing good research, they could be in academia, they could be in industry. Then you start exploring which are the research lab, and this is again similar to finding the research lab position. There are a lot of professors who encourage and invite, and the best institute and the place to start with, the IISc, you have IIT Bombay, like in Mumbai, for most of the people who are based out of that. The people who are in Pune, you have NCL, you have IISER, you have Agarkar Institute, NCCS. So first looking down, which are the national labs and institute in that particular area, right? And then start browsing those institute web page and websites, see who are the people, which are the areas you are finding yourself really interesting, and then start exploring those groups. Make your own CV and SOP or cover letter, write to those professor, and trust me, you have to write really dozens of such letter to get one positive reply. So don't imagine you wrote to 2 people and then they say no or they did not reply, then you feel like, oh, no one is replying me. Not replying should be the motivation for you to write more, because you just need one and it works.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have another question, which is by Chirag again. Can you mention some well-known journals or websites for research studies?
Can I say very selfishly ACS, because we are best in class and you are already
Yes.
an ACS member, so you get a lot of access to journals as well. There are a lot of open access papers available at ACS. So I would say right now browse ACS publications website and you will get 70 journals listed over there. And then you can just read out. Some of the open access journals are ACS Central Science and ACS Omega. You can start reading those, and we have 16, 17 biological science related journal at ACS. So I would highly recommend to browse ACS publications website to find out good journals. Or just on ACS publications website, type keywords. And then you automatically find those articles mentioned anywhere in any journal. That is another good approach. Or if you have SciFinder, you can basically go there. So any of the search engine will work. But starting through ACS publication website might be the easiest thing for beginners. So
that's all.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deeksha and Dr. Ajay, for answering the questions in an amazing way. Okay, I see we also have another question. Do we have to be member to get across the publications of ACS?
Yes and no, both, because there are a lot of articles which are freely available for everyone. But if you want to access more, then there are some member access to certain number of downloads. I think 50 downloads you get as an ACS member. And for students, I think fee in India is some 700 or 800 rupees per year. So you can contact to Sakshi, and I have my colleague here, Aparna Sharma. So write to us, we will help you to become ACS member.
And even though you are not an ACS member, you can reach out to the best articles by ACS Editor's Choice or ACS Author's Choice. Like Deeksha mentioned, ACS Omega is open access, ACS Central Science is open access. So they provide really a good sense of all those great articles that are in free to read and great. Yeah, definitely.
So ACS Omega you browse, ACS Central Science you browse, go to ACS Publications website, subscribe to newsletter, and then you will subscribe to journals. You will get e-alerts in your inbox. So for example, Journal of Medicinal Chemistry, subscribe for news e-alert. You will get in your inbox like which are the article published. For ACS Omega, you can subscribe e-alert. They have a subject category as well. For Central Science, you can subscribe. So things are really easy. Things are really accessible. And these are the things even you can access on your mobile. You don't even have to have the institutional ID for that, because these are all free to read journals for anyone, anywhere, as long as you have an internet connection.
Thank you so much again. I guess that was the last question. So I would like to quickly invite Soham Mohare. He's the secretary of the chapter. He would like to deliver a vote of thanks. So yeah, Soham.
Yes. Good evening. I am Sohare, secretary of the chapter. Truly the correct for yourself, and also thank for explaining tools by also like to Dr. Brigade Director Strategic Process, and Dr. Jha, the
Hello, Soham.
I think Sakshi, his internet is weak. Yeah. So,
I would continue. Yeah, I would continue on his behalf. So we really thank you from ACS VCP student chapter as well as Bombay College of Pharmacy that you took out time from your busy schedule and appeared here and helped us all really. I mean, we know a lot of webinars where they give you information which is there on the Google, on the internet, but to get such perspectives from experienced people like you is really rare, and we really thank you for the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Nice connecting you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.